Hello, Vision family. Welcome, young people. I got my friends here. We're going to have a fun time. We decided we don't want to call this the youth roundtable anymore. We want to call it the pew. The pew. I wish we still had some of our old pews. That would be so fun. Forget the view.
Just drag them up to the front.
When you can have the pew. That's what's up. That's what's up. College students or just empty nesters now and learn from them. And so I think these are two great, incredible young adults that teenagers can learn from. So I'm going to just have them share a little bit of their story, and then I'm going to ask some questions that I think will be awesome for you. So if you're listening in, go ahead and drop your favorite emoji right now. Let me know what that is. I love emojis. Anyone who knows me, like, if I could speak in all emojis, I would, because I love emojis. But I'm not that cool for the Bitmojis that they have going on.
The ones that look like you?
Hey,
yes.
Don't worry about it. Bitmojis are for old people.
They're for old people. Oh, sweet. I'm not that old yet. Yay. Because I'm like, no, I'm not doing the Bitmoji. I just, no. Mm-mm.
Don't worry about it. You're good.
Yeah, okay, good.
You're right
okay.
there.
My mom and dad use Bitmoji.
Oh, okay.
My mom does too. She uses it to communicate with me all the time. I'm like, okay, Mom.
My mom did too. Okay. So Bitmojis are for boomers. Okay, gotcha.
Literally.
All right. So who wants to start? Who wants to start sharing their story first? Maddie, Jeremy?
Jeremy wants to start.
Jeremy wants to start.
That's crazy. It's just like our regular days. I don't get a choice.
That's right.
So, like, from the beginning?
But short.
Oh, but short. In the year
the
1996.
It all started.
It all started
when I decided to make this religion my faith. You know what I mean? Like,
I was 18 years old, and it was when I was in Louisville.
Okay.
Actually, I can pinpoint it.
Well, that's...
Because I didn't realize what it meant until I was there, because I was by myself. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I didn't even think about that until, like, right now. But yeah, I do remember I was 18 years old, and I was like, oh. And it's funny is it wasn't even Christians who taught me what it wasn't even like a bunch of Christians who like entered me into that. It was more like I got kind of pushed into the deep end, and I was like, what's going on? I'm by myself. Oh my God. My parents are 5 miles or 5 miles away. What do I do? And then through that crazy like little moment, I was like, oh, this is what it's like.
Well, it's a good thing you had that strong foundation that you was like, yep, okay, this is what I really believe. So that's cool. Around 18 years old, you was like, yep, I believe this. Got thrown in the deep waters. I need Jesus or I'm going to sink. Yeah, okay, that's awesome. All right, Maddie, what about you? Share a little bit of your story.
A similar background. I was born here, raised in church, lived in Toledo my entire life, graduated from high school, and then kind of went into school for a couple of years to study education. Kind of realized that wasn't for me necessarily.
I've realized that too in the last 3 months of homeschooling.
That's right. Until you get into it, you don't know. So.
You're like, save me! This is my kid's last day of school was today. All of them, two earlier than two today. I was like, Jesus! I feel like a new woman. Yes, Lord. So I feel you. Okay.
Yeah, my mom's a teacher. I've been watching her teach 25 from home, so that's been fun. But yeah, after stopping going to school, just continuing to work and be involved in the church and all of that.
And so, similar background, if I remember correctly, you ended up going to a Christian school growing up too, right? And elementary and high school?
Yeah, I went through Emmanuel kindergarten all the way through. Okay,
and when was, because I know like my kids go to a Christian school, and sometimes people think, oh, you go to a Christian school, so it's easy, and I have seen, working youth ministry, particularly in urban youth ministry for the last 20 years, that in some ways, yes, it's easier when you have Christian parents and you go to a Christian school and you have that shelter. But in some ways, there are some things that are more difficult. You learn how to fake it really well, and that's not really a good thing. So, when was it kind of in that walk that you're like, no, I really believe this. I really believe in Jesus. I'm going to have a real personal relationship. When did that happen for you?
It didn't become my own until the year that I moved out. Like a year after I graduated high school, I moved out into an apartment, still in Toledo, but away from my parents, and that showed me that no one's gonna force me to do anything. Like no one was checking in on me about going to church, or you missed, because I wasn't at their church at the time, like keeping tabs on me for really anything. So I realized, okay, the decisions I make, I'm the only one who's monitoring that. So I get to decide what I believe now. So that was huge.
So both of you guys are kind of around the same part, same time period, like what, 18, 19,
Yeah,
that you're like,
I was
okay,
19.
that's funny because I was 19 when I really sold out for God. Wow. My story is a little bit different. I actually did go to a Christian school for a hot second in preschool, and I got kicked out. I was living that thug life. No, just kidding. Got kicked out because I cried too much, apparently, from my mom. So, and then my parents went through a state where they backslid and didn't go to church. They still believed in God, but it wasn't necessarily practice in our house, you know what I'm saying? So, and that was from like 5 to 15, almost 16. And then around 16, I kind of went through some real rebellious stuff, and my parents was like, what is going on with my daughter? Because before then, I would go to church with my grandparents, and with aunts and uncles, and I had a relationship with the Lord on that level as a middle school kid, and then I totally was doing my own thing like freshman, sophomore year in high school, and through that my parents came to the Lord, and our whole family started going back to the church. So that's a unique story in itself. But whether you grow up in the church or you don't grow up in the church, whether you grow up with Christian parents or with parents that aren't present, or a single parent blended family. I mean, in America today, in our youth group alone, there's so many different types of families. But the main thing that is important is it's not because of your parents that you get to heaven, it's only through Jesus. And it's just, that is one of my passions, that young people realize that they have to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And so I think that's so cool that you guys both realize that early on, because a lot of, statistics say, how many kids at 18 go away to college and then never come back to Christ. You know what I mean? So that's God's grace on both of you guys, that you guys at that time really was like, okay, this is for real. Yeah. And I was 19 when I was like, I'm ready to be like all the way, because I was trying to like kind of sit on the fence before, like, let me live my party life, clubs on Saturdays, church on Sundays, and then I was like, hold up, like, I need to make a decision. Who do I want to follow here? And when I made that decision, it was like no turning back after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's definitely a pivotal time, because that's when you kind of develop your habits, like for what your adult life is going to be like. So,
something that I respect about both of you guys is you guys both have. You're fun, but you're both disciplined. Like you said, like I can count on these guys being at church events. I can count on them. If they say they're going to show up for a youth event, they're coming.
Just don't worry about what time I get there.
They might be on Jeremy time a little bit, and you're 5 minutes late, but they're going to be there, and that's something I respect. You guys both have good work ethic. Speaking of a work ethic, can you remember your first job? Because we have some teenagers now. A lot of our youth group is middle school, but we have some that are like that 15, 16-year-old, and they're hopefully looking to get a job if anyone's hiring during this pandemic. Can you share a little bit about your first job? How old were you? Where did you work? Let's hear it. Jeremy, you cool. Start.
My first job was also when I was 18 in Louisville. That whole 2 years was like a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
But that was when I got my first job. It was in a nursing home. That's when I found out the difference between retirement homes and nursing homes. There's a difference. There's
a difference.
But I was working in the food. I
bet they loved you. I bet you those elderly senior saints was like, oh, look at this little whippersnapper. I could just see it.
I did. I worked in the kitchen part, and there was honestly, it was a pretty good job. I didn't have too much time. It was just like putting stuff on there. I didn't know there was such thing as thickened water.
Oh, me neither.
We had to thicken water. That was
I need to hear that.
New for me.
I'd like
they
to know.
give you these little packets because some of the people there, like liquids are too liquid for them to be able to drink. So it needs to be like a little chunky so they can like get it down. So we had to thicken water with like little thickening packets. It was gross.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't allow me to play with the PA because the PA had a delay, so you had to like try to ignore yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, because if you ever speak through something and you can hear your
Yep,
echo,
yep.
you'll start talking slower and slower, and I couldn't get that through, so they wouldn't let me do the PA because I would get
You're
up
just, like,
there
grounded from the
through the
PA.
entire
Yeah.
building and go. It is dinner time. We are about to start giving your food. And then I would
That
just
is
stop.
hilarious. They're probably like, get that young dude off the.
So they stopped letting me do that. But yeah, that was my first job.
That's a good first job, though. You probably learned a lot in that. So that's awesome. What about you, Maddie? What's your first job? How old were you?
I was also 18. My first job was the summer after I graduated from high school. I started working at Chick-fil-A, like pretty much right out the gate. I worked at the one right outside of Franklin Park Mall in their drive-thru for almost 3 years.
Oh, wow.
actually. Yeah.
Well, I know they taught you. So
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is on it, boy. Oh, I just had Chick-fil-A one day this week. I snuck away with one of my children. I can't remember who. I shouldn't be saying this. Because,
a
you
good
know,
choice.
when you have as many kids as I do, you don't take the whole family out because that's, like, expensive. So I was like,
Just
if
take
one
the
of them
family.
are with me, like, you might sneak away. And they know it, too. So sometimes, like, if I'm going out, they're like, Mom, where you going? I want to go. I'm like, I'm going to the grocery store. That's it.
You're like, okay.
But yes, Chick-fil-A will teach you a work ethic. So
Right away.
well, that's cool. Both of you guys were a little older. Some, like I know Faith started working at Enjoy some of your youth. Yep.
Yeah.
So now share a little bit with me. I know you guys both did college, trade school.